Welcome to the CryoCeo podcast. I'm your host, Fernando Vega. Very excited to be here today. We got my good friend Joe Lehotay. I always like to say it that way. Yep. Joe is with Pulse, PEMF. And you know what? As we mentioned before about these podcasts, we're trying to make these be informative so you can understand about what it is that they do, the manufacturers or the representatives of these companies and the devices that they have, and you're looking to add these devices to your practice. You don't know what it's all about, and you want to ask some certain questions about how to be able to get through that, and that's what the whole purpose of this podcast is. So, Joe, I would like to welcome you to the show. I really appreciate taking your time. We're here at Cryocon 2024 in Plano, Texas. It is happening. It's hopping out there, isn't it?
It's crazy out there. It's such a great event. We love being here.
And the ambiance is just amazing. So,
yeah.
That's why. And then, we've done a podcast before, but then I was like, Joe, let's do this again. Let's do this because it's going to be fun. We have a whole thing. So, Joe, go ahead and start up and just tell us about you real quick, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I've been involved with Pulse PMF. I've been in business in sales basically for the last close to 30 years. Started on the medical side in software, selling to hospitals and doctors' offices and insurance companies, everything from electronic medical record to large population health management software solutions for clinical and financial reasons to health systems. And about 7 years ago, I got a call from a buddy of mine who asked me if I've ever heard of PEMF. And I had years prior, and it wasn't Pulse, but it was PEMF being used on people. I knew that people really liked the technology, and so I looked into this company because he said they were looking for some reps. He had joined on. I was in the process of the company I was with at the time was being sold. So I was going to be looking for an opportunity anyway. I asked him just to keep me informed about it. And he called me a couple days later saying they really need somebody in where I happened to live at the time, Chicago. So I spoke with Pulse, the leadership, talked to the guys down in Atlanta and Cartersville, Georgia. And I jumped on board with Pulse, and it's been a blast. It's been just, we hang out from time to time, and so we're always somewhere meeting each other and sharing Pulse and sharing other wellness tactics and techniques and strategies with folks. So we just love what we do, and I've enjoyed every second of it.
Awesome. So tell me about PEMF. Tell me what it's all about. What does that actually stand for? What does it mean? And why somebody who's watching our podcast right now and is looking to add a new modality to their practice, why they should choose this?
Sure. Yeah, so PEMF stands for Pulsed Electromagnetic Fields, which is probably going to be gobbledygook to most people. And so what it really means is it is going to be a modality that you either can lie on or sit in or have applied to a specific area of the body of issue. And it basically provides bulk energy into that area, again, either systemically or focally, to stimulate and exercise low energy depleted cells. And so anytime there's pathology, injury, surgery, stress, fatigue, overuse in the body, things that we would complain about that are nagging at us, either from lifestyle or from sports or from injury, what have you, there's typically in the cells, low energy cells that aren't really able to do their job very well to help heal that area. So they're crumpled up. They're not performing at their highest optimal energy levels. And so the body is unable to uptake the components that heal the body, oxygen, nutrients, hydration, and the body's also unable to, not efficiently get rid of toxins and waste. And so with PEMF, we provide the user with what feels like a magnetic massage, again, either full body or focally, to basically provide bulk energy into those cells of that area so that that area of the body or the entire body, the whole system, can heal itself that much better. So anything from healing of whatever might be, the issue for you at the time, to anything else the body tries to do on its own, regulate itself, regenerate itself, rest properly, all the things your body tries to do and is designed to do, but doesn't always have enough energy at the cellular level, especially due to various factors that we may talk about. We provide that exogenous source of energy to the body, and it feels great. It feels very interesting. It feels great, like a magnetic massage.
Like you said, it's like 4 different ways for them to apply it onto somebody, and and it's great because of depending on how much money they can spend to bring it into their practice. You've got different setups. I remember that, and go from there. But before we talk about that, what is it that clients trust and love about Pulse PEMF?
I think from the first minute trying Pulse, even if you've never heard about it and you don't know a thing about PEMF, because of the experience it provides, it's very easy for people to sort of get hooked on the feeling of it. And from there, it's not only getting hooked on the feeling, but it's engaging the person to be a consistent user. Because you can think of PEMF as an aspirin. Hey, solve the issue I have right now. I just want to get out of pain, or I just want a solution to this specific issue. The way people are most successful is if they think about it not as an aspirin, but more as a vitamin. Yeah. More as sort of electrical nutrition for the body that you're using over a long period of time to create that foundation of resiliency and energy at the cellular level over time for the long haul. So we think of Pulse as the foundational biohack, as sort of a tag phrase, because it can energize the entire body to take better advantage of anything else you're doing, from a nutrition to a hydration to a movement standpoint to really any other biohack as well.
Nice. And and that's the thing. It's like right now, biohacking is huge. I mean, we started off with the health and wellness. We started off with IV hydration, and we went and did the whole cryotherapy, you're going that. And we're doing body sculpting, balancing body, red light therapy, float tank, dunk tank, every tank, whatever you want to call it, and one of the things that I like is Pulse has been here for a long time.
Yeah, we just had our 17-year anniversary a few months ago. So we've been around longer than most people in the room.
Yep.
Just from an experience and track record perspective. Have had, clients using essentially, some of them, the same device that they bought 11, 12 years ago. Mm-hmm. They're still out there. Our founder, Paul Webb, when he first started the company, he told the engineers that he hired to design and build, our devices, that he wanted them to last a lifetime, at least 40 years.
Nice.
At the time, it was as long as a chiropractor had his practice, basically. Because that's the first question they ask you, he tells us, when you ask engineers to design and build a product for you, is how long do you want it to last? And that was really threw him off. He didn't expect that question. He was like, well, how long do you think? Forever. And so, they told him, well, it may not be cheap if you go that route, because you're going to need aircraft quality this, you're going to need military grade that to build this thing the way you want to build it. And it's not going to be inexpensive. And he looked him in the eye and said, did I ever mention inexpensive? I want it to last. I want it to be the best PEMF on the market. And this is his voice saying this, I've used PEMF, and I was a basket case with injuries and with pain in my body, and it solved that problem for me. And so that's why him speaking, that's why he started Pulse, and that's why he wanted it to be the best PEMF on the planet.
So why don't we go into, all right, so I'm calling you because I'm looking to add this new modality to my practice. So I'm going to be like, all right, Joe, hi, I saw you at Cryocon, tried your device, I think it's great, but I don't know how to promote it into my office, but I want to buy your product. I want to get some more information. Give me some education about that.
Yeah, so objectively, Pulse provides all of the tools, resources, and structures that you need to get the business up and running, from forms to education to staff education, all of those materials that you might need to print out, consent forms and session trackers and the like, on the owner's website. So once you purchase a system from Pulse, you get credentialed into the owner's website where resides the training and all the resources for marketing, things you can order, swag items if you're running contests or just want to do an event or something special like that. All of that's available. On the subjective side, now you have help from the community in terms of Facebook user groups, rep assistance. And so if you follow me on social, you know that all I do is focus on how to convey and share PEMF with your clients in an easy to understand way. You can get deep into the science if you have a member who's a PhD and wants to talk about some of the more complicated scientific topics. But most clients and members that are coming into your facility, the most important thing to them is, will this make me feel better? Will I feel it? And will it do what I want it to do at the price you're offering it, at a reasonable price? And so when you think about something like Pulse, which is highly experiential, like we say, most people get on it and they love it the first time. So it's not a big heavy lift to let somebody know, and they usually experience relief on the first session. And so if you're offering an introductory pack, let's say, to get more people involved at a good price, at a price nobody can refuse, for 3 sessions, and you let everybody go through those 3 sessions in a 1-week period of time, because the effects are cumulative,
right?
So you don't want to spread them out too much, you're going to get people that have had some benefit in a very short amount of time, and now you basically go to a package program for 5s, 10s, 50, 20s, and 50 pack of sessions. That's one way. Those are standalone sessions. You can also incorporate it into your membership model. If you're running a membership model, we look to a range of about $1.50 to $2 a minute. So if you're selling if your membership credits, let's say, are $30, you want to run a 20-minute Pulse session for $30. That's $1.50 a minute. Those types of, but we counsel you on all of that as well. And then the third way that a lot of the people in Cryocon can do it is if you're running IVs or you want to stack it. IVs I'm going to use because that's, I think, the best example of it. You pulse in one of the IV chairs, or you use one of the pulse chairs to get your IV. So now you're stacking energy and better assimilation of that IV while you're doing the IV at the same exact time. So that might be a third model for anyone running and administering IVs, is to just sort of upgrade your IV session with Pulse.
Okay, well, that's great to hear. And then, but one thing is like, what's your ideal practice that should have a Pulse device in there? Is it an IV center? Is it a cryotherapy center? Is it a chiropractic center? Who should be really like saying, hey, you really need to have this in your office?
Yeah. I mean, it may sound silly, but I think everybody should use it. Yeah. And it's only because, all of us at any point can use more energy in the body. And because one thing most people don't think about is, even if you feel like you have enough energy and maybe you're, very alert, very active, you don't really have issues where you're lethargic or anything like that. And so I'm not really talking about that, because you might talk to somebody and they say, I have plenty of energy, right? Well, the other thing the body uses energy for is to rest. How is someone sleeping? How is someone recovering? Because in order to rest its optimal way, the body needs energy. We don't always have enough to rest well because of the way the things in society suppress cellular voltage, from pollution and toxins to lifestyle and frequencies, Wi-Fi, cell phones, all of these things really that we can't avoid in everyday life, whether you're a home person or, a regular person who stays at home, like a mom or something, or a business person who's a jet setter, or an athlete or a celebrity who's a jet setter. it's something you can't really avoid, is staying out of sort of the toxic soup that we all swim around in.
Yeah,
And so
sure.
detoxing and cellular energy become an issue for people. So in order to rest your best, you need the right amount of energy.
Yeah.
And from there, rest leads to better recovery. Better recovery leads to better training. Better training leads to better performing.
Yep.
And better performing leads to more success. And again, that's for any walk of life, whether you're a business person like us,
Yep.
whether you're an elite athlete, a doctor, a mom, a student, it doesn't matter. Everyone needs energy in order to succeed. And those are sort of the 5 steps of that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And then, so why don't we talk a little bit about we have seen all these changes been going on in the health and wellness industry, you know, like we just mentioned before, biohacking is now, everything's being called biohacking now. So it's huge, from the PEMF to cryo to IVs to, you know, now they're coming up with zero, you know, these float tanks that
the dry floats.
Yeah, the dry floats.
Yeah,
you know,
cool.
you got in that. They're coming out. You know, electric cryotherapy chambers. You know, to biocharging devices to oxygenation devices. I mean,
Everything.
it's everything. You can't. I mean,
it can be overwhelming.
Overwhelming is the list. You know, so I mean, do you see that majority of the people are going to be moving more towards a med spa versus a clinic, or is it going to be versus a med spa versus a clinic to a big box kind of a feel? You know, because it's a tough question. You know, do somebody needs to join, or do they join a franchise to become a big box, or do they go for it like how I did it, and I'm a mom and pop shop, and we're doing just fine as a mom and pop shop?
Yeah.
You know, I think we're doing better than what we would have been if we would have became a big box.
Sure.
But you know, so where do you see the industry leading towards? I mean, where do you see it, going towards?
I really see so many different models, and you're right. I appreciate that question because, you know, if I go past,
you work with all of them.
I work with all of them. Yeah. You know, I could have 10 phone calls in a day, and they could all be slightly different.
Yeah.
And of course, we see tremendous growth on the franchise side with the restores and the iCryos and the coveries, and you know, it seems like a new one is popping up every day. Some are focused on one thing, focused on IVs, focused on cryo. Some are broad. Some are, you know, offering everything right out of the gate. Yeah. Of course, Pulse and PEMF can help all of those. And so I don't know if I would say one model's better than the other. I think some people will have more success as a mom and pop like you have, because perhaps you were more educated to begin with, more connected to begin with. You'd been in the circle or in the community maybe longer than some who are just sort of deciding, hey, honey, you know, we've been in real estate all of our careers. We've made a boatload of money. Let's get into wellness. Yeah. Well, those people might need some assistance. Yeah. Okay, so you have a bunch of flavors of people entering this space, which makes it awesome. Because you get a wide variety of a diversified community from it, but it makes it challenging for some too that haven't taken advantage of a program like a franchise would offer and have decided to go as a mom and pop and didn't have the running start you might have had, right? So there are all different models to consider.
It wasn't easy, I'll tell you that.
No, and I didn't mean that.
No,
sure.
It's a a lot of grinding, a lot of hard work. But I like whenever somebody comes up to me and asks me, I'm thinking about doing this, I'll right away say, go for it. Make sure you have a business plan written out.
I think the biggest, but back to your question, because I don't think I answered it. Okay. My biggest concern in this industry right now isn't necessarily the amount of gadgets that are out there or what exact business model it is that you run. I think you can make your own choices as long as you know the people that are going to be working with you. Yeah. Who do you have to run your business? Yeah. From a managerial standpoint to a clinical standpoint to just a staff wellness greeter, standpoint. I think the candidate pool and the hiring pool is different than it might have been even 3 to 5 years ago. Yep. And I think that, in this business, it's a retail business.
It is.
And you're hiring retail employees for 90% of your people, right? And so the trick is how to train them, how to give them a place where they belong, where their value, comes back to them, and where you can keep people. You can create a culture around how to grow those people.
Yeah, you brought up a good point, because it's like we're literally entering the realm of medicine. And we have to be careful how we do that, because we don't want people out there practicing out of their scope and they get in trouble.
Sure.
Because somebody reported that. So, one of the advices that you can give somebody using your product, what would you give them? How would you tell them to be able to explain to their clients that walk in the door with, instead of going like, how do I say this? Let's rephrase it. Let's rephrase it to, I have a cryotherapy center. None of my staff has a medical background, and I've got people who are coming in for sports recovery, and we normally do sports recovery with cryo, but then they're coming in and we have a PEMF, and we're trying to make sure that they're like, oh, I have this, like I text you earlier. I'm like, I got a shoulder injury, man.
Yeah, you
like,
still haven't come by.
So I know. I got to get in there and get that done now. Like, I mean, it's like I can feel it. But anyways, but how can somebody do that? Like how you and I can talk, because we know each other. But what if somebody came in and we want to make sure that they don't practice out of their scope? How can they explain to the person about the product and how it works without getting that, without crossing that line?
Yeah, so I think a lot of that comes down to the company, your vendor partner that you're working with. And so the vendor has to be very in tune to having its training include the right type of language, the right type of education for folks. With that in mind, if it's one thing if you're training some nurses and you're letting them know that this is what you can say, this is what you can't say. But again, on the retail staff side of things, you have to make sure your training is solid. And so I think that's probably the number one thing that you have to look for in a vendor partner is providing the level of training that speaks to the person who's not necessarily clinical. Now, the good news is that most of your members and customers coming in don't need to be treated in clinical language and with clinical terms. Sure. And so most people just want to understand, hey, is that sitting in that chair going to make, my back feel better? Because that looks pretty comfortable. And now if the staff can share with them that, well, sure, I use that all the time, and my back used to bother me after a long day, and now it feels a lot better every time I sit there. Yeah. That's enough of an explanation for most people to give it a try.
And that's the key thing. We want to talk to people. We want to explain the things that it is. We don't want to go ahead and tell them, you need to do this. Be like, this is what it does. This is what it did for me personally, And that's like, in our centers, our staff use everything that we have.
That's also my number one. So the education from the company is number one, because you need that. That's official, that's formal, that's documented, all of that. The second one, though, equally as important, if not more important, is having the staff use the products. Yep. Every one of your staff needs to be using every one of your services. Because look at it. Somebody coming into a new job, you got 8 different services, maybe 10. They have to learn them all at once. And not only learn them to be able to use them on themselves, but learn them to be able to relate those benefits and value to someone they just met. Exactly. How do they do that? That's the trick. And so I think most of that is covered if they use it. And if they have a personal story about it, they can tell them how their ankle used to be. Their family comes in. My mom comes in. This is the only thing that helps her lower back. I'm using that as an example. Yeah. These are things I've heard, and you don't get that without those reps, without that hang time.
So now let's go ahead and talk about leisure time, because owners of companies, they're buying these products, they're working 7 days a week, 90 hours a week, 100 hours a week, whatever. They're putting in all this time to try and promote their business and this and that. And what I love about you is you're a hard worker, but you also enjoy yourself. So let's talk about let's talk about it a little bit. I mean, sure. After a convention like this where we're working from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. and then dinner, and then afterwards everybody's meeting up, blah blah blah. and then you got a 2-3 day downtime. What are you doing
Before the next event?
Before the next event, what do you got going on?
You probably find me on the golf course with my son. My son's, an amateur golfer, but he's trying to turn pro. He's 24 years old, so he spends a lot of time at Cartersville Country Club outside of Atlanta, and he'll drag me along with him from time to time. So I've been known to do that, and that's number one. Another thing that I do that's pretty interesting is we make our own sourdough at home. Nice. So we mill our own flour and make our own starter and all of that. So we enjoy that. So we enjoy food too. So golf and food is pretty much what I do for leisure.
And then I see also you're actively involved in the wellness community too. So, with different things. Yeah. So, but, all right. And then, so I see you doing that. But, give me one, so we can go ahead and close this off with one piece of advice for somebody who's out there that's looking to go ahead and get into our industry. They just got out of the other industry and they're trying to get into this industry. What advice would you give them?
If they're just trying to get into the industry, I would talk to others in the industry for sure. I'd try to talk to some other franchisees or owners of mom and pop type places, some people with some runtime, with some track record. And then I would talk to some of the vendors, attend some of these conferences. I've met a few couples in the room over there that have only come to Cryocon because they're starting something. They're in those beginning phases. And coming to a conference like this is one of the best, smartest steps you could possibly do. And then it's just a matter of meeting people, forming some relationships, determine who you feel to be credible and comfortable and who make you confident that they'll be a resource for you. Find yourself some resources, find yourself some advisors. This is a great community to be able to do that, or a community like this.
Awesome. Joe, I want to personally thank you for a few reasons. Joe, Pulse PMF, you guys were one of our sponsors to make sure that this podcast happened, to get the word out to everybody out there. So I want to thank you for that. I want to thank you also for being personally my good friend. We always chat. We met.
Yeah, man.
We met at this convention a few years ago, and we've always hit it off. So I want to thank you for that. I want to thank everybody, all the viewers who are out there. If they want to get a hold of you, how can they get a hold of you, real quick?
Yeah, best way to get a hold of me and the other teams at Pulse that I work with specifically is probably my Instagram at Lehotay Joe. So at Lehotay Joe, my last name, first name, all one word. And then from there, you can get my dot card, all my channels, all my other affiliates, because I do work with some other tech companies as an affiliate, some other supplement companies. So just get to know me a little better, get to know my content a little better, and hopefully it helps you on your journey to either start a business or share PEMF with others.
Yep. And then also, guys, follow us on Instagram. We're going to have all the links on here for everybody to be able to view. It's going to be on our YouTube page and our Spotify page, so you'll be able to go ahead and access any of that. And again, thank you, Joe. I appreciate you coming out here, giving us some time, and also, helping us sponsor this podcast to be out there. So I truly appreciate that. And you know what? Stay tuned for our next podcast. We're live here at Cryocon 2024 in Plano, Texas, at the Renaissance Legacy West. Great hotel, isn't it?
Yeah,
great definitely. Hotel. So, but yeah, thank you, and we'll talk to you guys soon. Appreciate it.